Hello, this is Scott Wells for the MagicWordPodcast.com. I'm really so happy to bring you this week's episode because it has been one that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. I have a good friend who lives here in town, Ben Jackson, who has been successfully performing for a long number of years, and I've had the pleasure of working with him from time to time. And he had gone to Texas A&M, and he invited me to come up to lecture for their group. He actually started a group which was the BAM, which was the Brotherhood of Aggie Magicians, I believe is what that was. They had T-shirts and everything. Anyhow, it was fun to do that. But this gentleman has really excelled with his magic career, as he's been working at some high-end restaurants, and then one thing or another as far as some of the contests he's been in and winning, and then ultimately doing his one-man show. There is so much to pack in this episode. I can't believe that we got it in within about an hour. So I'm not going to take up too much of your time. It's just been a real delight to have an opportunity to talk with this gentleman, and I know that you're going to enjoy the stories and the fun, the conversation, and the inspiration and the advice and education that he's going to give you. It's just chock full. So please welcome my guest this week, Mr. Ben Jackson, here on The Magic Word. Today I have with me someone who has actually been someone I've been wanting to talk with for quite some time. Specifically, in Houston, we have a lot of really high-quality magicians. I'm sure that a lot of other cities perhaps can say the same thing, but I'm a little bit biased. I think that we've got just some great people here, and I've featured some of them in the past, which includes Banachek and Walter Blaney and several others. But this is someone who has been gaining in more and more international, or at least national notoriety with his one-man show. And also that he's been performing, he has been on the Today Show, and he's won several contests, including the Strolling Olympics at the Magic Castle some years ago when he was a young man, and I say young when he was. He certainly is, he continues to be in my eyes, a young man. Please welcome my good buddy and friend, Mr. Ben Jackson. Hey there, Ben.
Hey, Scott. Oh, man. Here we are. Casa de Wells right here.
Well, I call this actually Mystic Haven.
Oh, okay.
Mystic Haven. And the reason I do is because that I always was enamored by the way that a lot of people in England will call their homes something. In other words, that wherever they move, that their house or their home remains the same. The house may change, but the home is the same. So I've had Mystic Haven wherever I have moved, and so my address has changed, but it's always Scott Wells, Mystic Haven, with it, whatever the address is going to be.
Home is where the magic is.
That's that's true, and that's what I do is carry boxes from one place to the other. You know that, speaking of Houston, another magician who had moved from Houston here a while back, and that is both Mark Holsting and also Gary Plants, both of whom are names that a lot of magicians know, certainly, and both those guys have just had boxes and boxes of books, and Dick Hatch also with H&R Magic Books whenever he had moved from Houston to go to Utah. All these guys just had so much stuff to have to carry, and you can imagine, of course, Bill Palmer, another one here in Houston, you can imagine he had, 2,000 cups and ball sets, to have to move. So can you imagine that?
No, I can't. Nor would I want to.
You want to. Well, as you grow and as you will. I was going to ask you about the Strolling Olympics. You were not a member of the Academy of Magical Arts. How'd that come about?
No, I wasn't. Man,
that was a long time ago, too.
Yes, it was. 2008 was the year that I won that, and I had heard about it through the grapevine, and the junior chairperson of the Magic Castle, a guy named Bob Dorian, was very, very gracious and very sweet to allow me to be essentially a member of the junior program, although he didn't ask me to comply with their attendance requirements, being an out-of-state magician.
Had he seen you somewhere before?
Yes, I came and performed at the club, and he was... Well,
as a junior?
As a junior, and I was part of the Future Stars Week.
Oh.
So he had seen some of my material and invited me out to the castle, and then kind of made me a little honorary junior member until I turned 21. And so basically I heard it through the grapevine, of course, at the Magic Castle. They had their annual Strolling Olympics competition, and I had an opening in my schedule. I was still at Texas A&M at the time, and I said, hey, I really want to go out and, give it a shot. Let's fly out there and let's compete, and it worked out. So
Wow. Now, when you're competing in the close-up strolling Olympics, were people coming into the close-up gallery and performing, or were you walking around the castle to the tables
Great
like
question.
a restaurant?
No, it was downstairs in the W.C. Fields bar.
Okay.
And the way they had it arranged was there were little cocktail tables, and patrons sat at each of the table. Those were kind of the judging panelists, and you would approach a table. You would do a quick set, I think no more than
Three tricks.
Yeah, 8 minutes, something like that, some type of timed routine.
Okay.
And then, politely excuse yourself and go to the next table. And so it was just kind of a, round robin. Hop here, hop there, hop there.
Strolling thing, like a name
In
implies.
a real world setting.
Right,
Yep, as much as they could simulate that.
So it wasn't like a cocktail setting like we normally, you and I would work like for corporations, but they were actually seated more of a restaurant.
Yes, they were sat at little cocktail tables, not those high boys, but,
And then you won that, but you haven't really competed in a lot of contests. I mean, like with the TAOM and IBM, and I mean, people don't see you at Magic conventions. You're one of these guys who is working. I mean, you're actually making money and doing the real thing.
Well, and the last one I did was I won the SAM out in Las Vegas in 2012.
It was a national convention?
The national convention. It was the Golden Nugget. And that was the last one that I competed in. And I did compete at FISM in 2000. Oh, gosh.
Wow, I'd forgotten about that. That's right. Was that in Sweden?
No, it was in Blackpool, England.
In Blackpool. Okay.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't even know what year it was. I think it was 2012. It was 2012 in Blackpool, England. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so what qualified you to perform there?
I qualified through the SAM, the previous SAM convention that was held in Pittsburgh, and it was me, Shin Lim, Woody Aragon, and Hector Mancha, I believe, yeah.
Who are those other guys and how'd they do?
Yeah. They're doing pretty well for themselves from what I've been told. Yeah. So,
I think Hector actually won the Grand Prix.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, deservedly so.
Yeah.
So
you qualified there because, I've got an upcoming episode that, or one by the time that this comes out would have already passed, where a listener had asked about how do you actually get into FISM and how do they judge? What is the competition like? And et cetera, et cetera. And I spoke with several people who are part of the preliminaries, and it's just different now, I think, from when that you had qualified, I believe, because now they have continental championships before you go to the world championships.
Well, the year I competed to qualify for FISM, that was the first year that they did that kind of national qualifying.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It was FISM mandated some guidelines we had to follow, but it was new in that sense.
What was that experience like for you when you got to Blackpool?
Oh gosh, I mean, it was
nerve-wracking.
For me, it was certainly it was an eye-opening experience. I mean, you're in literally like the Coliseum of Magic. There was, huge tiered seating, people staring down on top of you, and once you start, you just kind of go into autopilot. You're hitting all your moments, you're doing all your hard stuff, your knuckle busting stuff, and you're trying to, appeal to an international audience. Which, for me, I feel like my style, my performance, my comedy is certainly it's tailored for the States, and that was something that I realized, like, that line didn't play as well as I thought it would. Or
the Americans were laughing, but the French are going, what?
Yeah, what does he mean by that? Yeah, exactly. But no, it was an amazing experience, and it was quite an honor, to represent the United States of America at the highest stage. And I feel like at the end of the day, when I was done, what gave me, peace about it, because, you see some people who go back year after year after year. Well, every 3 years, rather.
Yeah.
And for me, I said, golly, I did the absolute best that I possibly could do. I feel like I exerted the most amount of creative effort when it comes to performing for magicians as I possibly could. And during the execution of the routine, I hit all my hard marks. Like I nailed a triple axel. Like I did it.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it any better. And I felt, so that gave me a lot of peace about it, to say, you know what? I'm fine. I think one and done is okay for me.
Yeah. Not getting first place is fine because you gave it your best, and everybody got to see your best and take it for what it's worth.
Exactly. And that's
you put it all out there, and I've done that, been there, I'm moving on.
Genuinely how I felt. That's right.
That's a great attitude, to have, as opposed to it's like you're going to be winning. Because even if people who win, I think, have greater expectations, perhaps, of thinking that those accolades from winning at such a high level will perhaps gain them more notoriety, perhaps more money.
Perhaps in the Magic community.
Well, in the Magic community, I think you're right. It will, but how many in the Magic community pay your bills?
Zero.
There we
go.
True.
That's very true.
So by having that, that's another thing is you frequently will see people saying in their advertising on websites, award-winning magician, and they may or may not necessarily have won an award in Magic, but they may have won a cooking award. But awards. And I'm just saying that, and not necessarily tongue in cheek. I think there are people who actually do that. But it sounds good and looks great, on there. But if you have something which you've actually won some credited award within the Magic community, then I think that plays well. I mean, like in your case, not only had you won that, but then you had also been on television. You were on with David Copperfield on the Today Show.
Sure.
And tell us a little bit about that. That was kind of a fun thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I was very flattered by the opportunity to be of service.
How'd that come about?
Well, there was a program that David was doing called Magic Mondays, in which I think for some month he popped on every Monday to do a trick to the hosts, Matt Lauer, Savannah Guthrie, Al Roker, and then essentially he opened up the invitation for younger magicians to come on his final segment and perform. And I got a call from Chris Kenner, and he said, "Hey, I would like you to be on the program." And I said, "Gosh, that's very flattering, and I'd love to do that."
And so, was that because he had again seen you, perhaps at the?
I first
Castle?
met Chris Kenner when I won the World Magic Seminar in Las Vegas. So that year, I won first place in the adult category, and the winner of the teenage category was Shin Lim. Yeah. So that's when I first met Chris, and then just kind of hit it off. Just a really sweet guy and super supportive of younger magicians, but then he texted me late at night and said, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And I said, "Who is this?" He says, "It's Chris Kenner." I was like, "Okay, Chris, I'll call you right now." And he extended the invitation my way, and I said, "Well, that's very generous, and of course, I'd love to take the opportunity to go on the show."
Yeah. So they flew to New York.
Flew to New York City
with your mom and dad.
Just me and my girlfriend, now wife, Julie. And it turned into one night we flew in before, woke up the next day, and you're on the set of a national TV studio, and it was really a whirlwind of activity. You are ushered in, go to makeup, go to hair, and then you're on the set, and they work like clockwork, man. It's like a NASCAR pit crew. You're here. You stand over there, David. You're going to enter in here, and then here's the monitor. And actually, this is important. Something that changed in my routine. Originally, they said each person is going to have 90 seconds to perform their magic routine. And I said, okay, 90 seconds. So what I originally had done was Sean Farquhar's Torn to Pieces, his photograph effect, which I thought, hey, really played to the host. And I talked about how, I look at you guys every morning when I'm making coffee. You're on my fridge. Here's this framed photograph of you guys. And but what I did was, in the original routine, was I ripped it into 4 pieces, and I put a piece of flash paper wedged in between the pieces. So when I lit it on fire, there was a little pop, a little explosion, a little visual eye candy that made it an instant restoration to then show it. Well, 2 days before I leave, the producers of the segment say, "Hey, heads up, you don't have 90 seconds anymore. You have 45. You have 45 seconds. I'm going to cut it in half."
Wow.
Like, oh my gosh, I can't, just 45 seconds it's crazy, mind-numbingly fast. And so I said, well, I got to get rid of something. And I said, okay, well, I'm not going to do the fire. We don't have time for that. So I remember being on set the morning of, and they were going over my set. They said, okay, Ben, you're going to do the thing with the photograph and the fire, right? I go, no fire. What do you mean no fire? What do you mean no fire? I said, well, you cut my time in half, and I had to cut rid of something. Like, oh no, but that was a great part. And I said, well, I'm sorry. I mean, you told me 45 seconds. I'm trying to work with you guys anyway. So, but that's what I did, and kudos to Sean for for that creation. So
you ended up doing without the Sans Fire.
Sans Fire, just kind of classic. Initial this, put the pieces in your hand, snap my fingers.
Boom.
And now it's restored in a mismade photograph. So,
right.
There you go.
And others, there were two others. Kayla Drescher?
Oh, yes. Jeff Price and Kayla. Kayla Drescher. Yes.
Right. And they were all at the same time as you. So all three kind of competed, or was it separate Mondays?
No, we were all on the same program together.
Okay.
So Jeff did a routine. He did a little something involving gum. So it was one of his original creations. And I think Kayla did a routine with bottle caps. Yeah, like a coin routine, effectively. Yeah. So,
and what was the outcome going to be as far as Kayla ended up winning, as I recall? But
that's true.
But did she get like on David's show, or what was the result? What was the contest for?
I have no
aside from the exposure.
Yeah, man, I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know what became of it.
You were just taking it one day at a time. Okay, I'm going to do this, and if it leads to something else, great. But no expectation.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like if you get to be on national TV with David Copperfield, you won.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I still use that introductory line. It's like you've seen him on the Today Show and for every corporate audience. So that's a great credit. It's kind of just add to the portfolio.
Now, see, that's what I was going back full circle of saying that I think that's more impressive to the public than saying, winner of this Magic Award or whatever, because they don't recognize the Magic Award, but they know the Today Show.
More relatable. Yep.
Yeah. And so I think that that would have some cachet with it in order to get some other shows.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And along with that, I know, like me, that you've been called to ask to be on America's Got Talent. Have you ever considered doing that?
Man.
I mean, for me, I have no end game. I mean, it's all a lose-lose for me. I mean, I don't expect to win, and should I really don't have any seats where I want to put butts. I don't have a show or anything.
Sure.
Whereas that at your young age, I would think that you would have, more like Matt Franco or Shin Lim, like you were saying, that you worked with and competed against. So I would think that you would be, particularly since they like magic, that you would be somebody that they would want to see and move on up.
Man, I just haven't had a lot of interest in pursuing that program.
Because
it's tough to articulate.
Certainly, got time.
Yeah, we got time. I think that now you cannot deny the positive repercussions of the program as it has celebrated magic. Obviously, Shin Lim's winning America's Got Talent. That's like what the old expression, high tide raises all ships, that type of deal. So it gets people at the water cooler talking about magic. It might encourage people to learn more about magic, just like Penn and Teller's show. Very, very similar. People are talking about magic. Hey, I saw this clip on YouTube from this TV show, and I thought of you, and we should hire a magician. And I do think that it can promote magic as a strong, viable art form in a positive way. I am not the most creative person in the world, and I feel, from my experience working in television, and I learned this a lot on Candid Camera when I got to be on the show, was you have to be very, very careful and cognizant of other routines that have already been created, and make sure you're original. And a lot of these guys, if they're not geniuses in their own mind of creativity, they will rely on teams of creative consultants to help develop that, and that type of commitment, and it wasn't super interested to me, and I don't know. I haven't really pursued it.
I think that's true, that if you were to go on with some of your original routines, or even if not original, it would be your routine of someone else's
Yeah.
trick. It doesn't matter because each of us have our own way and own spin of Professor's Nightmare, whatever it might be, Linking
Sure.
Rings or something, that might make whatever it is unique to you that they might find interesting. But the issue is that almost it's like, hey, that's great, you fooled us, you're going on. It's like, oh my gosh, I got a tiger
What
by
do
the
I gotta do
tail.
now?
Yeah,
What do
now you got to find a consultant.
Right, right. What else you got?
Yeah,
Oh, that
exactly.
else, well, that's been done before. What else you got? You got any
Yeah.
other ideas? What else you got? It's like, oh gosh, I don't know. It's like these are the best ideas that I have. So,
And that's not a bad thing, to
Mm-hmm.
dip into your magical brain trusts of people who can come and say, why don't you try this or that? There was a fellow on America's Got Talent recently. He had performed basically an invisible deck. And they said, oh, that's fantastic. How'd you do that? And of course, magicians are going, what? He got on and he went forward. And then the next thing he did was something else that was commercially available, but his presentation of that was really off the charts. And it just really excited Simon Cowell.
so
And
it's the singer, not the song.
it's the singer, not the song. That's
you go.
right. So that's kind of the point, is even if you have something that is commercially accessible or something that might be a commercially classic, like again, an Invisible Deck or something, that's fine as long as that you as a singer have something to contribute, which I believe that you do. You have a uniqueness about you, and your persona on stage, I guess, that I would call it, is not just unique to you, but unique in the magic world. I think it's very engaging, very charismatic. I mean, I'm not just blowing smoke up your skirt because you're
Oh, I
sitting
feel
across from me. But I have always been somebody in your camp because that you have achieved a lot, but I'm just excited about the future for you because you have so much more to do and so many places more to go. You touched on something a minute ago about Candid Camera. I'd forgotten about that little thing.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh man. Well, gosh, Peter Funt, whose father started Candid Camera, Alan Funt, back
Correct.
in 1948.
Was it that late? Because I remember it was in the 50s. Was it 48? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, actually, Candid Camera's first iteration came out the year prior, 1947, as a radio program called Candid Microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, which was that was exciting. But
And the basics of the show, for those who may not know what Candid Camera is,
it was America's first hidden camera television show. I mean, it was I
Kind
don't
of
know,
pranks.
You could call it the reality TV.
Yeah.
The first reality TV show. Yes, it was. A guy walking in a grocery store and he steals a banana out of somebody's cart and they catch it on camera. Very timeless, polite, classic humor. It is a series of unusual events that capture people's human nature, and it's
Right.
a very polite, fun, family-friendly program.
so Alan Funt's son carried on the tradition.
Peter
many years
Funt.
later.
So he continued the family's legacy of producing Candid Camera segments, and then they stopped doing shows, I think in 2009, and they took a break until they returned in the 2014 season. So 2014, they resumed. They did one season on TV Land, and basically they gave me a call and said, we would like to work with you to kind of be a magician in disguise, a non-assuming guy who works at as a clerk or a dry cleaner, and strange, unusual things happen to people, and you're none the wiser. It's the straight man. So very, very
Almost
similar.
like a Carbonaro effect.
Exactly. Very, very similar to the Carbonaro effect. And although, of course, the show wasn't about me, I think out of the 100 bits they did the entire season, 6 of those bits were magic related, and I got to lend a hand in that.
What year would this have been?
It's 2014.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Because the Carbonaro effect started probably in 15? Or around the same time. 14.
well, no, the Carbonaro effect was on the air.
It was
It
already.
was on the
Okay.
air before I had my hand in Candid Camera.
Okay.
So, which certainly made me do a lot of homework to
Not copy.
to look and to make sure that the routines that I was doing were not duplicates of Carbonaro. Well, certainly when you have a team like Michael Weber and Derek Hughes and
David Regal.
David Regal and some of the bigger names too.
Yeah.
I mean, golly, so you got the top of the food chain. To certainly be respectful of their work, it's because their show is so great. I mean, golly, with so elaborate and so amazing, and the set design. Really, I would fly into California and not know where we were headed to until I arrived. So I didn't know that, hey, we're going to do we're going to do a bit in a party supply store. What can you do for us?
Yeah.
A lot of it was kind of off the cuff, and I felt kind of like Gregory Wilson on the spot. I gotta come up with something that would fit in my pockets, or that would just be an easy fix.
And seem natural and
seem motivated. And also Candid Camera, this is also something people don't know. Candid Camera, for their whole special sauce, they are not a multiple camera angle shoot. They have one angle. There is one cameraman and one sound guy behind a wooden facade of a construction site in a business.
Yeah.
And they shoot it from one angle, and it's always kind of the over the shoulder behind the straight man's booth, or
point of view.
Point of view. Mm-hmm. So, gosh, it was wicked hard to develop material that would play for the person in front of me, but also not flash and expose to the camera guy that was right behind me.
Oh.
And it was very challenging.
Hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I remember
because they're not going to be able to edit something together later because they just have the one camera. And
that's right.
That's it.
That's the one shot, man. That is the one shot, and that was their whole that was their whole disguise for every place we would go to: a party store, grocery store, dry cleaner. There was always this is some construction going on over here. Don't mind this. The huge wooden box and drop cloths and paint buckets, and that was their disguise as they were filming. So, but I remember one bit we were working on a dry cleaner, and lo and behold, Reggie Jackson walked in, Mr. October. Yeah. I mean, didn't call ahead. He wasn't a special VIP guest. Just a genuine surprise, and that was pretty fun. So,
and did you do something for him?
Oh yeah. We tried. We did the bit on him. Yeah. So
you remember what it was?
Yes. I would take their credit card to pay. It became my credit card. So the credit card would change, and then their credit card ended up in a cinched up laundry bag, one of those meshed laundry bags, inside the breast pocket of a shirt. So it was a change in an object to impossible location. So, yeah.
Was he surprised?
I hope so.
So at the end of the thing, I mean, I know Michael Carbonaro, he'll usually say, hey, you're on, this is the Carbonaro effect, and then kind of tell him. In Candid Camera, did they just walk away still thinking, what the heck was that? Oh,
yeah, no, you come clean.
Okay.
You certainly, when they get to the point of frustration and they start calling you names, or they get, some people are cool as a cucumber. Maybe they laugh, they joke with you, like, okay. They have a higher tolerance for being
messed with.
That's a good way of saying it. Other folks are, they don't have the time of day. And so to diffuse the situation, you say, oh, hey, I want you to know it's all right, because that wooden box over there, there's a guy inside with a camera and a sound man, and you're on Candid Camera. What do you think about that? And just, hey, we're just having fun with you, man. I'm Ben Jackson. I'm a magician, and you were delightful. Thank you so much for letting us have some fun together.
Yeah.
So that's how we usually end it. And then now here's the deal, Scott. After you do that, and you could have a wonderful take, you could have a wonderful reaction, and they seem so jovial, so kind, so friendly. You don't seal the deal until they agree to sign the release form. I can't tell you how many times we would have, oh, that was beautiful. Oh, that was it. Yeah. That's great TV right there.
Yeah.
And they won't sign it.
Really?
They say, no. I don't think so. I don't want to be on television. I don't want to be seen as foolish or, be silly. I was like, oh, but it's all in good fun.
Right.
You were so great. We would try to coerce them, and if not, then Peter Funt, who of course would be there on set, would kind of come out behind the curtain, kind of flex his muscles, show the big guns, and be like, hey, come on, I'm Peter Funt.
After all, look at me.
Look at me. This is great. Anyway.
He wouldn't flash cash. He wouldn't pay them, though, would he?
No. The only time that I am familiar with us paying people was we did a warehouse bit kind of a rope magic bit.
Okay.
Two guys working in a warehouse, and we're trying to assemble a pulley system together, and basically ropes kept on changing lengths, and it was a lot of rope magic that was being used as the method. But in order to get people there, we put in a Craigslist ad asking for a day laborer, effectively. And so that is what drew those people there. And then I was perceived as another one of those day laborers, and we would go to a warehouse accompanied by the boss, and the boss would say, all right, guys, well, you need to do this project, and also, actually, can you work on this pulley system first?
Yeah.
And so then we did the bit, and we revealed, hey, you're on candid camera. And then at that point, we said, hey, we appreciate your time. We understand you were here to do a job. We're going to pay you what we promised you in the Craigslist ad for the day. Of course, no need to stay for the day.
Right.
Here's your money. Thanks again. We do appreciate it. So they were genuine. They were sweet about that.
And more than likely, they would sign the contract or release form at that point.
I
just wondered.
I think more than likely a lot of them did. Yeah.
I just wondered if they did, money talked that way.
Oh.
But I'm sure that's the same thing with Carbonaro Effect, that they probably have some gold on tape that they will never be able to show. I've heard before, I've talked with some film people in Hollywood, and there's something about, I guess, just Hollywood in general, where they can be on television all the time, or they see streets blocked off where they're filming for this TV show or movie or whatever, and so they're used to film and TV and being on there, or not necessarily being paid as an extra, but walking around or asking if they could, because the point is that if you were to ask a common man on the street, I think in Hollywood, would you mind being on this show or whatever, for the most part, that they say no. There's a higher percentage chance that they'll say no than if you go to Des Moines, Iowa. They're going to say, yeah, other place else, that it's like, hey, I can be on TV, but there it's like, I can be on TV anytime. It's just, that's part of the business, and it's no big deal to people residents in and around Hollywood as it is to the rest of the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense. Sure.
Because that they're around it all the time. And so it's harder to get people to sign those releases there. Now, were you filming in Hollywood and LA area?
No, we were filming in Carmel.
Carmel, okay, wow, beautiful area. Now, there again, those are people who have a certain level of income, probably, and again, don't want to be seen as being silly or whatever.
Sure.
So, yep, I can kind of see that. So was that the only other TV series that you were on?
I did that, and the only other kind of fun big project I worked on was I was the private coach and hand double for Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the movie Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. That
was a great movie. I remember that well, but I didn't know that was your hands.
Yeah.
They're black and white.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was me.
Have to go back and watch that then again. So did you try to teach him, and then they finally said, no, we'll just use your hands?
Well, when I was brought on set, I think the hopeful intentions were, hey, we really would like Joe, as they called him. We would really like Joe to do the moves himself.
Right.
And I said, well, when is Joe filming this? And they said, well, probably in the next 3 or 4 days. I said, well, Joe won't be able to do this in 3 or 4 days. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I guess this. It takes practice. I mean,
sure.
We just can't pick it up in a couple of days. Anyway, probably to the level they wanted, because what they were after was the one-handed shuffle. They wanted to display that skill set because that was part of his character.
What he could do, right.
What he could do. And he portrayed this cocky young card sharp named Johnny in the film, and they wanted to make him look authentic and badass and just all those wonderful things. So, but basically what I learned very quickly is that when you're a guy like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you're pulled in every which way, every direction, and your time is very, very precious.
Every day.
I don't want to be the annoying magic guy who says, hey, Mr. Gordon-Levitt, we have to practice together, and we need you want to hang out with me, and let's you grab a deck and I'll grab a deck and let's jam. It's like he doesn't have time for that. He's got to go and work on lines, or
I need 2 hours of your time to work on this card trick. That's not happening.
So I think at the end of the day, what I did was I approached him and I said, hey, I know that you're very busy. I'm going to be right over there, and I'll be your coach on call. So whenever you feel so moved and it's a good time for you, just know I'll be ready on set. If you want to work on things, I'm here for you.
Right.
And that's why I'm here. And effectively, what I showed him was how to hold a deck of cards. This is a mechanic's grip. This is a dealer's grip. This is how you change your fingers if you're doing a second deal or a bottom deal. So he felt confident when he would sit at that table that he is a gambler. He is a hustler.
Mm-hmm.
And then effectively I had a duplicate costume, and whenever it was time to execute a move, whether it's the one-handed shuffle or Leonard Green's top shot or card spring or something like that,
mm-hmm.
we would have Joseph Gordon-Levitt freeze in his chair, as rudimentary as that. Just freeze.
Yeah.
Get up out of the chair. All right, Ben, come on in. Sit down, and move your elbow a little bit. And
had continuity person watching. Yeah,
exactly. And how about tilt your hand a little bit and get your body, your face, and your chest as far out of frame as humanly possible. So I would
right.
really distorted my own body just to get it looking
your hands right position. Yeah,
to get it as smoothless as we could. But that was a really fun project to work on that.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. I had, and I assume he was a nice guy to work with.
He was certainly very, very complimentary.
Mm-hmm.
I remember certainly feeling the pressure when it was time to do the moves, dance monkey dance,
yeah.
when you have the entire, that felt like anyway, the cast and crew all huddled around the camera with bated breath. All right, let's see this kid do the work, do the move, man.
Yeah.
And you got, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and you have Robert Rodriguez, and you have Frank Miller,
mm-hmm.
all looking down at the camera monitors, and action. Do it.
Yeah.
So,
and a multi-million-dollar movie.
Yeah. Oh my! I learned
no pressure.
I learned so much on that film. I mean, golly. I mean, just the cost, the per day cost.
Per day, yeah.
Astronomical. What it meant to make that movie.
Were you actually in the studio or outdoors?
We were in Robert Rodriguez's studio, which is in Austin, Texas. It's the entire movie is filmed on a green screen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And in fact,
I guess that's right, because I know that there's a graphic novel based on Frank Miller's graphic novel of that series.
Exactly.
And so I can imagine the green screen.
Yeah. I remember I met Robert Rodriguez, and we were in his office together. He's like, all right, show me your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Show me what you got. And I showed him some magic. He said, okay, you're hired. And then right from there, we left that room. We walked down the hallway. And then he opened the doors, and there was his gigantic warehouse studio. I felt as though I was Dorothy leaving my land of black and white into the land of color.
Yes.
And I had no idea what I was going to be doing.
Yeah.
And then he introduced me to Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I go, holy
right
crap.
There. He was there.
Holy crap. Yeah. It's like, wow.
Just that same day.
That same day. Come in for a meeting. You're hired.
Here we go.
And now you're working for me. It's like, okay, I will. And thankfully, my sister was living in Austin at the time. So
he's worked with Quentin Tarantino, I think, on several movies too. Yeah.
Yep.
Robert Rodriguez is awesome. I think it was from Dusk Till Dawn. I think he had done that with Quentin Tarantino
that sounds right.
on part of that, and then he did Machete and several others. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow. That's phenomenal. Let me go in a completely different direction on something that you've been doing of late, and that is your one-man show. I was referring to that a little bit earlier.
Sure.
And you have actually, I started to say bounce. You've kind of gone from one to another. You're currently in a museum, but prior to that, you were in a boutique B&B, basically, at La Colombe d'Or, and then that had closed or remodeled or whatever, but that was just a perfect little area, I think, and venue that you had. Can you tell me a little bit about the evolution because people have asked me, said, who is this Ben guy, and what's the show that he's doing? And I said, well, the only thing I can kind of compare it to or with would be maybe what the Chamber Magic is doing with Steve Cohen.
Sure.
It was the only comparable thing I could think of, because he was doing that or is doing it at a hotel, as you were as well. So I assume that you were inspired to saying, hey, look, I just want people to come to see my show rather than me traveling around to them.
Well, for me, I saw that performing a public ticketed show would be part of my business model of another revenue generating opportunity.
Because you have an objective, you have a mission statement of something that you want to accomplish in life.
I think so. I mean,
that's great for you. Not many people do.
Yeah.
I admire you. It's one of the reasons I admire you.
Thank you. And that has been certainly a wonderful performance opportunity. Producing my own one-man show. We are currently in our 5th year, and you're right. The first 3 years of our residency, the show is called Magic, Music, and Mayhem. It's a parlor show. It's capped at 50 people, cocktail attire, and we originally were hosting performances right in the museum district of Houston, in Montrose specifically, in a historic mansion called Le Colombe d'Or, formerly the Fondren Mansion, and the show took place on the 3rd floor inside a very cozy art gallery, and we loved that space. Oh my goodness, because it bred intimacy. I mean, it was so.
And they had a piano in there for you and everything.
I had I lugged up a piano 3 flights of stairs.
No.
Yes, I did. And now it was a digital piano, which is different than a keyboard.
Okay.
People think, oh, they're the same. They're not the same. A digital piano has hammers in it. Okay. And it weighs between 50 and 100 pounds. And so it was a Herculean effort to lug that thing up every time. But my girlfriend, fiance, my wife, gosh, we have so many memories of producing our little show. Although I was the only guy on stage, it was 2-man operation. You know, my wife, Julie, was the, and still is, the receptionist, taking people's tickets and showing them, ushering them into the room. And then once the lights go down and it's showtime. So that's it.
Do you have curtains and stage area that you set up? I mean, a raised stage or?
Well, yes. So it was a parlor show. One thing that I really wanted to have a different approach. You know, for Cohen's on the ground, which I will never understand why. Why are you on the ground when you have 3 or 4 rows of people?
Deep of people they can't see.
Visibility. So I commissioned a guy to build a portable
riser.
Essentially a series of portable boxes that were carpeted that I could push together to make a 6-foot by 8-foot platform, 8 inches off the ground, with a nice little Oriental rug on top. And I also had multimedia in my show, a close-up camera, television screen, because I really liked Joshua Jay's program, his Unreal show, where he was one of the first performers I saw using that multimedia aspect that I thought that really amplifies your production value. And I want people to walk away with knowing, gosh, I feel like that was well produced. And that certainly was a motivator for me. But we were there for 3 years, did the show 1 weekend a month. Friday and Saturday nights, 2 shows a night, 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. showtime. Each show is an hour and a half. So I was a wild man for 90 minutes. Wild. That's why the show's called Magic, Music, and Mayhem. I mean, Mayhem is also part of the audience. I mean, they bring the fun, they bring the heat, they bring the energy. Yeah. And I'm just there to facilitate the fun. So, and then my goodness, after the show was over, I literally had 20 minutes to turn the room. 20 minutes to turn the room. And that was, reset the magic. And
you're still pretty at a high level emotionally and psychologically.
I have enough time just to shake everybody's hands. Thanks for coming. Glad you were here. The first group is gone, and now I'm like a wild man resetting the program. But man, so many fun memories at Le Colombe d'Or. And then you're right. So we had to move locations because the Hines Group, the global real estate firm, and Mr. Zimmerman, Steve Zimmerman, the owner of Le Colombe d'Or Hotel, they were doing a joint venture in which they were building a residential 34-story high-rise tower behind the historic Fondren home, and now they are connecting those buildings. And anyway, the whole hotel is non-operational. That started in 2019. So we had to find a temporary stay. And great relationship with the Houston Museum of Natural Science in Houston. And we knew that we needed a new venue to keep the momentum of the show going. By that time, we were in our 4th year. And, the reception turnout was great. And so we went into their Brown Gallery. Beautiful space on the first floor. It looked like something out of Beauty and the Beast. This ruby red carpet, glass chandeliers, and a whole display of glass display cases around the perimeter of the room of Fabergé eggs. I mean, it's just beautiful, beautiful room. And so we did the show there.
It seats about how many? Same, about 50, 60 people?
We raised it one row. We bumped it up to from 48 to 60. We did 4 rows of 12. Then we bumped up to 5 rows of 12. And we found that still is in the sweet spot, that people still feel like they're intimate enough without getting into more of a stage program. So that's kind of where we wanted to live. And then to wrap up the story, after 6 months, we knew we needed to find a longer-term solution. And so our new home is the Four Seasons Hotel right in the middle of downtown. And we've been there since July of 2019, right up until February 2020 when, of course, COVID-19 happened. So, But yeah, man, we are so fortunate, and we love working with the Four Seasons. They are a wonderful partner, and it certainly sets the stage, sets the atmosphere
immediately
for the night.
when they walk in the door.
Immediately. I mean, you have people dressed to the nines. You have the world-class hospitality and luxury that the Four Seasons boasts. You have a phenomenal bar, phenomenal restaurant. And then you have phenomenal showroom. I mean, gosh, our showroom is it's intimate, but it's lovely, and we pull out all the stops for certainly for our guests, in the sense that it's still just me and my wife. That's it. It's a very lean operation, but I run QLab in my show, which is the show automation software. And I have music cues and a live camera feed. I play the piano in the show, a television screen that I show pictures and videos on. And then at the back of the room, we have theatrical lighting. So we have lighting that's controlled, wireless DMX controllers, all connected to QLab. And so I have to give a huge shout out to 2 people. Number one, Trig Watson. Trig is Mr. High-Tech Wizard. And I remember in 2018, I drove up to Dallas because Trig was talking about QLab. What is QLab? And so I took him out to lunch and picked his brain. And for 2 days, he taught me QLab, and I am ever in his debt for that. And then another big shout out to Charles Peacock of Audio Ape and Media Monkey, the hardware transmitter receiver devices that a lot of guys use for music and now laptop control. I hired Charles to be my lighting consultant, and he taught me theatrical lighting while he was living in Florida and while I'm here in Texas. And we would have little Skype sessions, and he helped program and show me the ropes about lighting to have a real theatrical experience for our guests. And that's what I really wanted people to experience. When they walk into that room, I know that people can spend their money anywhere. They go to the Alley Theater, Jones Hall, Wortham Center. I want them to feel like I just walked in and I saw the best one-man play I've ever seen in my life.
90-minute show, no intermission.
No intermission. Yeah. And I want them, of course, encompassing the gamut of emotion. They're laughing. Their minds are blown. They're on the edge of their seat. They're suspenseful. There's that no-way moment. There's that, oh, wow. Like, oh, I got to see a bit of that man's soul a little bit,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you take them on a real roller coaster of emotions.
Absolutely. And the biggest compliment we get is that people come back, 3 or 4 times, and the show may not change, but they're like, gosh, we have our out-of-town friends who are here, and we want to see and spend time with Ben again. And that's really, I think, the ultimate goal for me is that people say, oh, that's a guy that I'd want to grab a drink with or share a burger with, or he could be my next door neighbor, that type of deal.
So the show doesn't change when they come back.
Well, it does. I don't want to say, I think 2019 actually put in 3 new routines into the show, which, as a fellow performer, it takes a long time. It takes a long time to put in a new piece, because what are you doing? You have to sacrifice one of your other pieces, and you have to say, well, this new routine has to be at least equally as good, if not better. And it also has to tick off several boxes. It's like, well, I've already done this type of effect. I don't want to duplicate that. And I want to have some variety, because my performance style is, I am not an artist, Scott. I am not an artist.
What?
I would not consider myself an artist in the slightest. I feel like an artist is someone who uses their tools to share their perspective of the world. And
what do you do?
Well,
as a performing artist.
I
your
suppose
music
so.
and the
I don't feel like I feel like I'm more of a craftsman, and I have skills that I want to showcase and give people a variety of experience. And I'm a showman first, certainly, entertainer first, and magician second, and that's kind of the way that I see it.
Wow, because I would certainly have contradicted that and said that you are an artist because as an artist that you are creating an experience that people will remember, as opposed to being a craftsman where you have built a table and saying, look at that table, that's functional. You can put a glass on it or something, as opposed to something that has a lot of ornate bits and fiddly bits and whatever that make it more than just a table. It makes it an art piece. And I think that you take the magic and you do make that into an art piece with your presentation, even if it is something that could be commercially available. You've obfuscated that enough because that you've put your personality into it and changed it with your own creativity to make it different from what other people are doing, which separates you from others.
Sure. I mean, I think Penn and Teller are artists. They have something to say.
Don't you see yourself like that?
I don't.
Well, okay. Well, and that says a lot about you right there, because that others do see you that way, but you don't see yourself that way, which means that you are still looking to achieve perfection, that you don't feel as if that you have reached that level of perfection yet, which is good, because that way you're going to continue to strive as opposed to just mailing it in. You know what I'm saying? You feel like, oh, that was good, but I can tweak this or that. That's what makes Copper feel good every night, that he's still doing whatever on his stage show, regardless of how many shows he does. And the same thing then with you, that develops. And so I think that's great. There are the Four Seasons. Do they come into a banquet room? Unlike what I understand with Steve Cohen's show, they actually go into a suite where he has a room that is reserved.
Great question. So when guests arrive, they can go to the bar. They can certainly have dinner before if they'd like, but they'll check in with my wife, who is positioned outside the showroom. And if I want to be, I guess, technical, I guess it is a meeting room, but my goodness, it's a gorgeous room. And that's where we conduct our shows. So it's not a suite, it's not a hotel room per se. Mm-hmm. It is where people would have a meeting or a reception inside.
And so do they serve drinks inside the room there as well, or do they get them at the bar and bring them in? Or
yeah, we don't allow drinks in the showroom. We certainly don't want to have any interruptions. We want to create that theatrical experience the moment they walk in. Yeah. But certainly drinks are allowed and encouraged. So people bring in champagne buckets, no exaggeration.
Wow. Okay.
And they come to play.
Because I recall that with Dennis Watkins, it seems like that you meet downstairs there, and I want to say it was at the Potter's
Bar.
At the Potter's Bar, first of all, and you get a drink or two, and then you can then take it up to the room where he has a show. Is that right?
Partially right. You do have a centralized meeting. Yeah, that's right. You do have a centralized meeting area, and then Dennis comes down from the showroom to escort his guests up into the performance space, into the showroom. And then when you enter into the showroom, I believe there is a bartender on staff who has a mobile bar set up in the room at one corner of the room to pour drinks to guests as they walk in before the show starts. I think with his admission, a drink is included in your ticket.
Because I was thinking that would be something that you could add also, which would be to the hotel's advantage of them selling additional drinks during your show or prior to the show or something. But
yeah, well, we do have a couple of perks for our guests. I mean, one of the things is that we... if you're here to see the show, you get free valet parking, which is pretty nice in downtown Houston. You get free valet parking with the purchase of just one drink. You buy a drink downstairs in the lobby bar, and you can get your parking validated, which is great. And then the other thing that we do is if you're here for the show and you want to have dinner afterwards, I think there's a 20% discount on your food portion of your bill.
That's great. So you got a good relationship then with the hotel.
Oh yeah, no, that's certainly part of the secret sauce about making it a win-win. Certainly a win-win for you and the venue.
I know that one of the things that you had done prior to this, and we'll start to wrap up over here, was just that you had talk about Dennis Watkins and with Steve Cohen and other people. You kind of researched all this and talked with all of these friends to find out what it is and their ups and downs and suggestions on, making sure that you're not having to recreate a wheel. And I think that's always a good thing to do that research.
Oh, sure. I mean, I certainly have very, 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 very thankful for a circle of close friends who are like-minded, entrepreneurial vocational performers who have residencies in their respective towns and cities. And yeah, it's great to swap ideas.
Yeah, because there's no competition, certainly. I mean, you're not competing with someone in New York or Chicago. I mean, you're here in Houston, and so they can certainly share those ideas, because as people travel from one place to the other, they can always say, oh, and I'm sure that this has been the case, I've seen so-and-so already. And when they go to their shows, they probably say, oh, I saw Ben in...
Yeah. No, I've had people who have come up and they said, oh, gosh, we're so glad we're here. And the reason why we're here is because we
Love
so
magic.
much enjoyed the show that we saw in New York City at the Nomad Hotel with Dan White, or I saw Steve Collins' show, or God, do you know a guy named Dennis in Chicago? And like, oh yeah, of course, I know all these guys.
Yeah.
So
I would think that'd be something that more and more people would be interested in trying to develop in their own metropolitan area. It's not something, unfortunately, that you could do if you live in the hinterlands or someplace, in a farming community. You need to find something that's going to be where that there are already people coming in. And I think that the plan that you have developed, and that is that there is an expectation, as you say, when they come in, of being first class, because it's like going to the Magic Island or the Magic Castle. People come to see magic, as opposed to when you go to a restaurant and a mariachi comes up, it's like, no, stay away, or you don't expect a magician necessarily to come to your table or whatever. And so you kind of surprise them. Here, they're coming to see magic, and they're also expecting first class because the way they dress, the way, just the general nature.
It's the association
exactly
of that well-seasoned brand. Yeah.
Yep. Nope, that's true. A good marketing plan and good mission statement. So I would imagine that this is something you just kind of see right now, envisioning continuing on for a period. I mean, Steve Cohen's been doing it for I don't know how long, but you could do this, I'm sure, for a long time here too.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, and going back to what you were saying earlier, it reminds me of the quote from Walt Disney where he said, half the ride is waiting in line. Half the ride is waiting in line. And so having the cocktail attire, having the Four Seasons as that destination setting, having all of those bells and whistles, that's the line,
of the ambiance that it
yes,
creates.
the ambiance. I think that's so important. If there's anyone who's considering doing that, venue is a big component.
And having them buy in with you, not just going and paying for that venue, but partnering, I think, with them. Like, you were good friends with the guy at the museum. You were good friends with the guy at La Column d'Or, and good friends, and also with management there at the Four Seasons.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be
friends like to do business with friends.
That's right. You have to have a, fiscally, financially, has to make sense, and
for both parties,
and then persistence, and you got to show up, man. You got to show up, and I feel you have to treat every guest. Because really, at the end of the day, the way that people say, how do you keep up that level of energy? How do you stay fresh? How do you stay motivated? How do you stay on? And it's this simple realization that those people paid good money. They committed. They bought the ticket. They got dressed up. They made arrangements with the babysitter. This is their date night. You have no idea what's going on in the world right now. And this could be like their big night out. And how do they choose to spend it? To see you, to see your show. And if that doesn't sink a weight on you to deliver, you shouldn't perform. That's how I feel it. I feel that is that's a precious gift that they're giving you. They're giving you the gift of your time, finite resource. We don't have so much of it. And that
you could choose to do something else with your time and money.
They absolutely could. And boy, that lights a fire underneath me to know that I owe it to them to give my absolute best every show. I mean, gosh, in December, I did 7 nights of shows, 14 performances, 14 shows. After I'd already done 20 corporate events, before that. But man, I was tired, and I was, really exhausted, but gosh, every time they walked in, and when people walk into that showroom, who's there? I'm there. I shake everybody's hand. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. But man, having that meaningful connection, you wouldn't believe how people say, hey, you're the guy. You're the guy. And I go,
personalizes you.
Yeah. It's like, well, I'm a guy, but you're the guy. You're the guy who came. Thanks for coming. I'm so glad you're here. And I am my own warm-up act. So I feel like that certainly drives me to give these people the best that I could possibly give them.
Well, that's great. As we wrap up, what is your magic word or phrase? Because of what you've been saying over here, all has to do with that. I could almost put those words into your mouth and restate what you've already just said, but there were a variety of things. But to encapsulate what maybe that you have said, or maybe whatever else happens to drive you, what is your phrase? What is your magic word?
Oof. That's so hard. I don't know. I've listened to I feel like all of the Magic Word podcasts, and I know you always end by asking this question. I should be prepared. I should know the answer. Oh, man. I just feel like, delivering your absolute best. And I feel like if you deliver your absolute best, you will go home and you will sleep well at night. I mean, I felt that same way of every public ticket show I do, or the same way I felt
at FISM.
At FISM, exactly. I gave it my absolute best, nothing held back. And in closing, it reminds me of a brief story that really reshaped my purpose in my work. February 2017, I received a phone call from a guy named John Spomer, who's a managing director at La Cantera Resort and Spa out in San Antonio, Texas. And John had hired me before for some corporate events, but what he was calling me about that day, I didn't expect. He said, "Hey, Ben, this is John. Hey, John, what's going on?" "Well, Ben, look, I think I got another opportunity for you." I said, "Okay, John, what do you have?" "Well, there's a family here at the hotel, and their son really likes magic." And I thought, no, no way. I'm not driving 3.5 hours one way to do a kid's show. I don't even do magic for kids. Not there's anything wrong with that. Not there's anything wrong with that. Just not my style. I don't think I'm interested. I don't think I'm the right guy. But before I could politely decline his invitation, he said, "Ben, one thing you should know is that their son's name is Kobe. He's 11 years old, and he has terminal brain cancer. And it would mean the world to this family if you could spend some time with their son and give them an experience that he'll never forget." And I stood there, phone in hand, stunned in silence, and said, "Yeah, John, I'll be there." So my wife and I, we packed our bags, we headed out to San Antonio, Texas, and we had made arrangements with the hotel to make this a genuine surprise for Kobe.
Yeah.
I was going to knock on the door, smile on my face, walk in with a big bag of tricks. And then an hour before the show, as I was preparing in the hotel room, the following thought dawned on me, that this may be the last magic show that Kobe ever sees. And I began to weep, heartbroken for this family and for their son, who is battling a terminal illness.
Yes.
But I made the resolution right then and there. I was going to give my absolute best for Kobe. Nothing held back. And the show lasted an hour and a half for 5 people. Kobe, mom, dad, brother, sister. And I'll tell you, I have never met a more enthusiastic audience member than Kobe. I mean, I'm telling you that when you become a professional magician, as most of you are listening, you know there's a whole wide gambit of reaction you receive. Some people, very, very vocal, arms flailing. How'd you do that? They're pulling their hair out. Other folks at the other end of the spectrum, very cold, calculating, internal. We call these people engineers. That's right. And so, but not little Kobe. He let out barbaric yelps of excitement. His enthusiasm could not be contained. And oftentimes during the program, he would grab me by the arm, spin me right around, look me right in the eye, and say, "You are a real magician."
Well,
and up until that point, Scott, I never felt like one. Felt like I was just a guy who knew some clever things, and that's it. And I realized that my purpose in that moment was to give this family a moment of reprieve and joy, to cherish the time they had with their son more sweetly. My purpose was to give them happiness in the midst of heartache. It wasn't just about card tricks. It meant so much more. And I feel like having that mindset of going into your work with a sense of purpose, that will sustain your enthusiasm for the long haul of your career. And so I try to view every event, if I'm trying to help a company connect with their people, or I'm inviting guests to the show, that my purpose there is to serve them. And that will do me good.
Wow.
So
powerful. What a great way to wrap this up. Ben, thanks very much for your time. Appreciate
Yeah.
you finally getting around to where we could sit across from each other and have a chance to have this chat. For those who listen to the Magic Word, that Ben has been on in the past, but as one of a guest among others who I think we've had. But I've been wanting to sit down with you for such a long time, and thank you for spilling your soul and letting us know about a lot of things. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Good emotional
right
ride
back
there then
at
too.
ya.
All right. So for the Magic Word podcast. Oh, if they want to, by the way, get in touch with you or to find out more information, if they're coming to Houston or whatever, what is your website?
Yeah, benjacksonmagic.com. That's the website for any upcoming performance dates at the hotel.
Yep. Perfect.
And that's it.
Great. So for the Magic Word podcast, that was Ben Jackson, and this is Scotty out. Boy, thanks, Ben. That was just a delightful conversation. I really enjoyed an opportunity to sit with you and have an excellent conversation. I learned a lot, and I hope that you, the listener, did as well. And speaking of listeners, I thank each and every one of you for coming back every week and listening to these podcasts. And if you haven't had a chance to join our pod letter, so this way you can find out about who's on each week and who's coming up next week, plus some suggestions from the archives, I suggest you go to themagicwordpodcast.com, where you can then subscribe to the pod letter, and it's a free weekly newsletter, basically, that just gives you all the information that you need to know. And if you have a few moments, I could always appreciate if you would go to iTunes, if that's the way you listen to your podcasts, and just leave us a 5-star positive review if you can in the comments section. That always helps move our podcast up the line a little bit, and for more people to be able to find out about the Magic Word, that would be a good way for you to spread the word. The Magic Word, that is. So thank you guys very much for listening this week. And until next week, stay well, get booked, and remember that for a good night's sleep, always give everything your very best. This is Scotty out.